Chicago real estate is literally going down in the dumps. Chicago office tower, known for the diamond-shaped top on the skyline, sells for about half price in 2017. Now, if you guys have ever been to Chicago, you probably have seen this building. It's pretty iconic because it looks so weird. I mean, normal buildings look like this, and this one looks like this. The 41-story building was sold to R2, and they bought it from CBRE Investment Management for $60 million, which is honestly a pretty cheap price for such an enormous building, guys. I'm not sure what to tell you, but if you go to places like Manhattan, $60 million only gets you a 5,000 square feet penthouse in Midtown, not a whole entire building. You go to Singapore, $60 million will probably get you a mid-sized bungalow house, not a whole entire skyscraper. It's just a Chicago thing right now. So a Chicago investor paid this money. They now own this building. It is a massive discount from the previous price for nearly $121 million. This is about a $60 to $70 million discount. And this is the first major office sale in Chicago for more than $50 million since July 2022. That just pretty much shows you how bad the Chicago real estate market is. It's one of the worst in the world, and in my personal opinion, the worst in all of the United States. People think that San Francisco is bad. Bro, Chicago is even worse. We got buildings selling for 90% off, and areas are slightly less desirable. They're still at the Loop, but just not in like the super good part of the Loop. And many of these buildings are now selling for just pennies on the dollar. There are a lot of real estate transactions, and these are all like small 12-story, 14-story, mid-sized skyscrapers selling for just like 20 or 30 million bucks. It's actually crazy. I saw one that was 12 stories high, and it sells for just 4 million bucks. It's crazy. Look at how enormous this office building is. It is huge. And we already have somebody entering the deal with $45 million in Chicago's best business district, essentially. This is the 230 West Monroe Street. It's at the Loop, 29 stories, $45 million. That is an extremely cheap price. And this is another investor here, and this time it's from Oregon. Buys the building. The building's about 40% vacant, meaning that they're probably not making that much money. And like I said, $45 million is an extremely cheap price. But there's also a lot of investors out there who don't care about the price of commercial real estate. They say that Chicago, yes, commercial real estate is super cheap, but what about the future growth potential? The crime rate in Chicago is the highest it's been in decades. We're also seeing Chicago during the migrant crisis, Chicago refusing to lower property taxes, and many companies are just sick and tired of America's biggest metropolitan cities. There's already a report coming out saying that some of America's biggest cities are actually losing people to mid-sized cities. So this is why a lot of these buildings are selling for cheap. If you guys have $5 to $7 million, you could probably buy like an enormous building for that price. If you're asking for 80% off, they probably will give you that coupon. And look at this. Also have Mayor Brandon Johnson's real estate transfer tax plan. It's going to absolutely destroy the commercial real estate sector in Chicago. Essentially, buyers, if they want to buy anything, or sellers who want to sell, they all have to pay this weird tax, ranging from 1% to 5%. And that will actually make deals a lot more expensive, especially if these deals are like $60, $70, $80 million. And this is a massive turnoff. This is actually causing a lot of people to shift and turn away from Chicago real estate. And buildings honestly just got cheaper. Not to mention, you even got some of the biggest billionaires, they're done with the city. If you look at the hedge fund manager Ken Griffin, moving his whole entire company's headquarters out of Chicago into Miami, even says that Miami will one day be the new Wall Street, and pretty much says that Chicago is really not for him. I don't really blame the guy, because his penthouse in Chicago, the lobby got shot up. There's bullet holes. He's like, I bought a penthouse in the best part of Chicago, and my lobby still gets shot up. That is something that you don't want to see as a super rich billionaire like Ken Griffin. And I kind of see why, right? Chicago really doesn't have any more good areas anymore, and the situation is getting from worse to even worse. If you look at some of the real estate prices, it's scary cheap, really. It honestly is scary cheap. I mean, look at this building, right? 2 bed, 2 bath, 1,300 square feet, and probably one of the best luxurious condos in all of Chicago sells for just $565,000. Now, hear me out. I know $565K is a lot of money, but if you go to other major metropolitan cities around the world, in the heart of the business district, and one of the nicest, glassiest blue skyscrapers, usually 1,300 square feet does not sell for just $500,000. Go to Singapore, these units sell for $2 to $3 million USD easy. Go to Manhattan, this unit will probably go for $3.5 million. And the really sad thing about Chicago is it's being listed for $565K. Yeah, they're not going to sell it for that. They're probably going to have to sell it for like $410 or maybe even $380K. This is how bad the real estate situation is getting in Chicago. So, thanks for watching, guys. Comment below. What's next for Chicago real estate?